Welcome back to Ali and the Golden Eagle by Wayne Grover. Chapter 5 The Falcons. Come, my friend, we will go to the Falcon House, and I will show you the fastest, strongest birds ever to hunt for man. You will see we have the finest birds in the world. Mustafa, followed by his sons and me, led the way to the long mud brick building covered with a heavy thatched roof. As we entered, I was greeted with the pleasant smell of earth and leather. The building was clean and had air vents spaced along the walls, just under the roof. There was a long row of perches along both sides of the main aisle down the middle of the building. Each perch had a large bird on it, attached to its roost by a leather strap. Each strap was short enough to keep the birds from reaching one another. I quickly learned why they were kept that way. As Mustafa stopped and spoke with 3 teenage boys who were preparing some of the falcons for the hunt, I walked close to a large, dark bird. In an instant, the huge bird leaped from its perch and flapped its wings to jump on my left arm, digging its razor-sharp talons into my flesh. With its beak, it slashed at my face and neck. It happened so fast, I just stood there until Ali grabbed the leather thong and pulled the bird away. The bird let out an ear-piercing scream and beat its wings, trying to fly away. Mr. Wayne, these birds let only their own masters come close to them, and they can be very dangerous, said Ali. They can rip your eyes out with their beaks. Please, stay behind my father until we select and blindfold our birds. Fouad was smiling at my discomfort, seeming to enjoy it. My arm was bleeding from wounds where the falcon had tried to land, but I knew it was my fault, not the birds. When their masters took them on their left arms, the arms were wrapped in heavy leather. And the birds were hooded. The bird that had jumped on my arm was only doing what came naturally. Aha, Mr. Wayne, you have met Kitcha. She is one of our best hunters. She must like you, or you would not have any eyes left, said Mustafa, laughing. Yes, I'm fortunate to have met such a nice bird, I said, laughing back. Fouad, go bring us some warm water and a clean cloth wrap so I can clean up Mr. Wayne's arm. While we waited for Fouad to return, Mustafa took me on a tour of the aviary. As I looked at the big birds, I could see there were true falcons among a larger collection of hawks. I knew that falcons differed from hawks by their long, sharp-pointed wings and longer tail feathers. Both have keen eyesight and ferocity, but the hawks tend to be a bit heavier and slower in flight. Kitcha, a female peregrine falcon with piercing eyes and a pointed, turned-down beak, looked almost regal, with her thick, shiny black feathers tipped in brown and white. Kitcha is one of our best hunters, but she will let only my father and me near her, said Ali, picking up a woolen blanket. He threw it over the falcon's head, and she quieted immediately. Next, he attached both her feet to the roost bar with short leather loops. He took a hood made from goat's leather and another leather thong about 15 feet long and held them at the ready. Lifting the blanket from the bird's head, he carefully slipped the hood over her. It had a place for her beak to protrude, but covered her eyes so she could not see. He attached one end of the short leather of the short strap, holding her to a small wooden ring on his leather-covered left arm, then placed the arm against the bird's chest. And she stepped onto it, fluttering her wings as she found her balance. There, you see? She is ready for the day's hunt. Fouad returned with a wooden bowl nearly full of hot water steaming in the cool air. It smelled like camphor as Mustafa washed the scratches on my arms and face. There, you are as good as new, he said as he wrapped a soft, hand-woven cloth around my arm. Ali looked small with such a big bird on his arm, but he was all smiles as we started out with the 6 men Mustafa had chosen to work their birds that day. Each man had a bird on his arm as Mustafa led the procession with another of his own birds, a brownish female falcon, regally perched on his arm, still as a statue. My father's falcon is the fastest hunter in the world, boasted Ali. She will get more game than any of the others. You'll see. We walked a long way from the village until we were on a ridge that dropped off steeply on each side. I could see dry riverbeds where the water from centuries of runoff had scoured the canyon bottom on its rush to lower ground and eventually to the Red Sea. The hunters stopped and separated, each man with his falcon on his left arm, hooded and quiet. Ali's bird was nervous and kept jumping up, but was held in place by the leather strap attached to its feet. First, my father will work with his falcon and then let it start the hunt, Ali explained to me. This is very important because man is the natural enemy of these birds, and we must let them know we will feed them. This is done by using a long leather strap with a goatskin wrapped pouch on the end. The pouch has bird wings sewn onto it and a piece of raw meat tied to it. The bird is fed from the hand at first to let it know it will always get food from its master, continued Ali. Mustafa, listening to his youngest son explain some basics of falconry to me, smiled proudly and said, Ali has a special way with birds, and at 13 he is probably a better falconer than most of the adults. But, father, interrupted Fouad, am I not better than Ali? Mustafa lowered his eyes and paused. Yes, Mr. Wayne, Fouad is also an excellent falconer. Fouad's eyes showed his feelings of jealousy and resentment for his father's attention to young Ali. He stared hard at him and stalked away without speaking further. Mustafa took the hood from his bird and fed it meat from a pouch tied to his waist. The big bird snatched the meat with its sharp beak and raised its head to swallow it in one piece. The bird watched intently as Mustafa tied 2 pieces of meat to the small pouch on the end of the long thong and swung the pouch in a big circle. He released the bird, and in an instant it caught the pouch and ripped the meat from it, swallowing it in mid-flight. The procedure was done twice more, and each time the bird landed back on its master's arm. Now this is when we must trust the bird to go back to its freedom, hunt for us, and return with the game it has captured. If the falconer has not gained the bird's trust, it will fly away to stay, explained Mustafa. As we watched, Ali's father raised his arm high, then quickly dropped it. The falcon took flight. It flew around Mustafa several times, let out a shrill call, and flew down toward the valley below. One by one, the other men went through the same routine until all 6 birds were gone off to hunt. Now, my son, it is time for both you and Kitcha to learn, said Mustafa. We are ready, father. Mustafa took a mask made from interwoven bamboo strips and slipped it over his son's head. He then wrapped a long piece of cloth around his son's neck. Now, son, slowly uncover the bird's head, but keep her tightly held to your arm. Easy now. Ali very carefully reached over with his right hand and pulled the cover from the falcon's head. As he did, the big bird instantly slashed out at the mask on Ali's face. Ali stood still as the bird tried to bite him. He seemed to have no fear. Very good, my son. Stand still and do not be afraid. The bird will sense you have no fear and stop trying to hurt you. Little Ali stood steady with the big bird flapping her wings and slashing at him. I wondered how such a young boy could be so brave. Now, feed the bird some meat, but be careful. Ali reached into his meat pouch and took out a small piece of bloody meat. As he moved it toward the falcon, the bird snatched it with a lightning movement, catching Ali's fingers in her sharp beak. I saw blood ooze from his fingers, but he showed no trace of pain or fear. He reached in and again gave the bird another piece, and again was bitten on the hand. Son, you must withdraw your hand as the beak grabs the meat. Try again. This time, Ali managed to retract his hand without being bitten. The watching falconers gave a nod of approval. Well done, my son. One day you will be the greatest falconer in the world. Now, I shall show Kitcha the meat. Then I will swing it in a circle, and you can let her fly after it on the long lead. As you say, father. Mustafa held the meat close to the falcon's mouth and teased the bird with it. When she tried to snatch it from his hand, he quickly pulled it back. He soon had the bird excited and struggling to be free of the restraints holding her. Release her, but hold the line tightly, Ali's father called out. With a flurry of wings, the big bird flew from her perch on Ali's arm, reaching the end of her tether in a split second. Mustafa swung his meat lure around and around while the falcon struggled to get it. The bird pulled so strongly that Ali had difficulty holding on to the tether. Mustafa walked in closer so that the arc of his swinging meat pouch came near the falcon's tether limit. In an instant, the bird grabbed the pouch from mid-flight and ripped at it with his beak. Aha! She has struck, called Ali. Yes, your bird is swift, my son, but it will take many lessons before she will learn to hunt for you alone. She still wants to fly to me. If you can become Kitch's trusted master, she will hunt well for you. Over and over, Ali and his father repeated the training process, each time giving the bird a little more length of line so she could fly a bit higher above their heads. How long does it take to train a bird? I asked Mustafa. Sometimes it takes a year or more to get a bird to hunt and return with its catch. It is natural for birds to eat what they catch, so they must know they will receive good care from their master and be well fed. Some birds never learn. Kitcha is a fine hunter. She and Ali still need much training together. After about 40 minutes of standing on the hill, watching Mustafa and Ali train Kitcha, the other men started watching the sky for the return of their falcons. It's Lotta returning, one of the falconers was shading his eyes from the sun and pointing to a bird flying up from the valley below. No, it is Bassrock, shouted another. As the bird approached, I saw it was carrying an animal in its talons. The bird swooped high overhead, then dived for the group of men on the ridgetop. It came in fast, dropped its catch at its master's feet, then folded its wings and landed on his arm. You see, "It is my Bassrock," said the proud falconer. "He has brought me a fine rabbit for the table." He took out a large piece of meat and gave it to the bird, which gobbled it down in one bite. Then he gave Bassrock another piece. One by one the birds returned with game. Some had animals, others had birds. Mustafa's falcon brought a small lamb. When the men saw it, they groaned as one. "Oh, by the hair of a she-goat, Lubica has stolen a lamb from one of the lower villages," complained Mustafa. "I shall have a visitor within 2 sunsets to claim our village falcons have raided their flock again." I whispered to Ali, "Will this cause a big problem for your father?" "No, Mr. Wayne. We shall have a feast with them, drink lots of coffee and tea, and give them one of our lambs. It happens many times. Their falcons raid our flocks too." It was late afternoon when we all returned to the village. The canyon was already in deep shadow, with just a patch of blue sky overhead. It was time for me to start back to the canyon rim. I knew the climb out would take until dark, so I thanked my guests for their hospitality and said goodbye. "We look forward to your next visit, Wayne. If you will call down when you return to the rim, I will send Ali up to meet you," Mustafa told him. "Ali, you may walk with our American friend to the cliff face where he will begin his climb." "Thank you, Father," a happy Ali replied. I shook hands with Mustafa and his other 3 sons. As Ali and I walked to the cliff, we saw 3 golden eagles lazily circling in the warm air thermals of the canyon's updrafts high above. An idea that had been going through my mind became clearer. I had already talked with Mustafa about it and received his permission to have Ali join me in exploring the area above the canyon again. He told me he wanted Ali to learn more about the world above the canyon village and was confident that as a good friend I would look out for his son's best interests and safety. Watching the eagles, I said, "Ali, if we could capture an eagle, you and your father could train the mightiest bird in the world to hunt for you." Ali looked at me curiously. "It is not possible to catch the eagles. They live in huge nests made from sticks high in the canyon walls. No man can reach them there." "Maybe the time has come to find out," I said as I started up the first steps cut into the stones. "I have an idea. The next time I come to see you, I may have a surprise." "Go with Allah, Mr. Wayne. May Allah protect you," I called back. Darkness came quickly, and I just managed to reach the canyon rim as the last light faded into blackness. I got into my rover and started toward the compound where I lived.